When the English established Kingston after the 1692 Port Royal earthquake, they laid out the city in a very rigorous grid with the streets running north-south, east-west, intersecting at a square called Parade. Then it was a parade ground. From that which is the top of North Street going down to the harbor and then going East Street, West Street, all the way across. There are streets and lanes and they're uniform, fairly uniform lots. And so there is that underlying structure that no other town in Jamaica has.
Downtown is Jamaica's most important intra-transit point. Whichever direction you're coming from, whether you're coming from west, east, north, south, at some point there's some pass-through of downtown that has to happen.
In the 17th and throughout the 18th century, people were walking, riding horses, in buggies. If we're talking the 19th century, we have all of that. And then we have the additive of the tram, the electric tram, which ran on routes along those grids too, east, west, north, south. There's also the main railway station that connected the city to other towns in the rural parts of Jamaica. When we get into the 20th century, we have all of the above plus the combustion engine motor car. So when we look at old photographs, you see everybody doing everything in the street. They're walking, they're in a buggy, another one is in a car. So when we get further into the 20th century, we lose the cars, the buggies. We have many more cars, buses, bikes, bicycles. So when it's not really designed specifically for those things, but the way it was designed affected how those transport methodologies could work. Because Kingston was founded to be a port to serve the merchants, there was a lot of demand for space. So close to the harbor, along Harbor Street, Port Royal Street, and anything nearby, we have these very dense party-walled commercial buildings with residences on the upper floor in many cases. Probably every city in the world, every village started out with mixed use because people mainly walked or rode horses. And so the distance is pretty much defined by that. So things like where you live, where you did business, where you did retail, all of that tended to be very clustered together. That's the norm of how cities started. So that's how Kingston started too. Not too long thereafter, there was an impetus of suburbanization because just as a city is an ancient thing, suburb is too. Because, when you have everybody cluttered in the city and you don't have the amenities that some places have in these days, it's dirty, it's dusty, it's noisy. So people who could afford it, they're going to move further, but not too far, so you can get the conveniences, but you live in some nice place. And as more people move out, we have people coming in. People from the rural areas seeking desperately some kind of job or occupation.
Kingston is really filled with people who came from rural areas and they've taken their cultural practices and social habits with them. And so downtown really helps to give Kingston the kind of metropolitan identity that it has.